Hi, everyone. Welcome. I am so excited to be having a conscious conversation today with the magnificent Brooklyn Rain. Now, before I get into her bio, I just wanted to share with you all that towards the end of the conversation, she leads us through a very heart activating and a fire starting to further embody the Krystos template. Brooklyn Rain is an intuitive channel, heart oracle, and quantum field interpreter. Through her direct communication with Source, she is able to connect and stabilize a zero-point plasmic field within the space she holds for others. This allows for alchemy of the physical, mental, emotional, and spirit bodies to be experienced and grounded into one's currently expressed reality. Through her diamond crystalline plasma structure, she embodies the Krystos archetype of the mirror, holding a space of diamond clarity for others to remember who they are and why they are here, assisting others to return to their original source DNA blueprint combined with their Krystos template, allowing for a fuller embodiment of the I am presence, self-realization, and unity consciousness. As an original seeder of both humanity and of Gaia's many elemental resources, Brooklyn shows up to assist in repairing and rebuilding the portals, frequencies, grids, and meridians of both the micro of humanity and the macro of Gaia. As an enlightened sharer of unified consciousness in many lifetimes both on Earth and throughout the multiverse, Brooklyn channels the wisdom and living light transmissions of the Krystos Collective and the One Source Collective. These transmissions and wisdoms come through as spoken words, light language, and plasma light frequencies. Through group transmissions, private sessions, speaking engagements, in daily life, Brooklyn remains unwavering in her desire and commitment to be in the greatest service to all beings in accordance to the highest expression of unified consciousness, prime source creator, and law and order. Brooklyn received a bachelor's in hotel and restaurant management from the Pennsylvania State University and an associate's degree in culinary arts from the Culinary Institute of America. She spent over 15 years as a chef, creator, and concept owner before a significant spiritual awakening began her journey of complete rebirth. This new journey led her into a certification at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition as a holistic health coach. From there, she has trained in and practiced meditation, quantum healing, sacred breath, and color light therapy, to name a few. Today, she incorporates her understanding of food, meditation, quantum energy, and spirituality to assist individuals in their embodiment of physical, mental, emotional, and spirit body balance and well-being. As you can tell by this bio, this is going to be a beautiful and expansive conversation. And I hope you guys get a lot out of this, as I know this will meet you wherever that you're at on your journey. And without further ado, here is the video. I just feel like something profound is going to be shared. And so I just want to say thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, yay. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Joining this beautiful connection.
Co-creation of love and light. So there is a topic that came to my heart before. Usually nothing comes to my heart. I'm just going in the flow. And this topic is very dear to my heart, and I know it's dear to your heart, as it's part of the reason why we are here today, and not just in this now moment, but in this incarnation for our service. And before I get into it, I feel like a good place to start would be to read off something that was really profound that came from your website, and kind of starting us off with a question that I'll ask you afterwards.
Yeah.
So you're here to assisting others to return to their original source DNA blueprint, combined with their Krystos template, allowing a fuller embodiment of the I am presence, self-realization, and unity consciousness.
Mm.
I feel like in that little, it's not even a paragraph, I think that's a sentence. What a powerful statement. So many gems in that in itself. Because today I felt really, and what was coming to my heart was things pertaining to Kryst consciousness, the archetype of Kryst consciousness. And so I would love for you to just share any way that you feel like sharing in this now moment as to what it looks like when one returns to the Krystos template, and or if these are the same questions, what is the Krystos template?
Yeah, good questions. Well, as we know, right, everybody has a different blueprint and a pathway. So there's not just one way in which we could ever generalize how one returns to this blueprint, right? Because we're all unique individuations of source. We all come in, we all have all different threads of expression of creation in different systems, universal systems, multiversal, in their scope, right? Some beings actually, as we know, come in to experience and to individuate as, within this universal system. Although I feel like it's actually more rare to come across a person of this, who's incarnated in this way than it is to come across people that are more multiversal in their scope of creation and existence. So returning to the Krystos blueprint, right? The I am, often referred to as the I am, presence within. There are so many layers to that. And, each one of us having our own unique blueprint have different layers and levels of access to this template and how it will unfold on our journey here. As we know, we're in this time of ascension, right? Where it's not only for a few people to experience, it's for the entire planet, perhaps even arguably the entire universe in some way, but very much, within our Earth experience here, we know that this is a time for all consciousness within and upon Gaia to have the opportunity to come into greater embodiment of higher dimensional range of consciousness. So the Krystos template is we hear so many different terms and ways of expressing how one comes into a place of transitioning their carbon-based DNA back into their crystalline DNA, right? Which is another expression or system of ascension that we often experience as a result of desiring to return to our original angelic template, original human template, original Krystos template, right? All of these different templates are really a part of the monadic template, right? The oversoul template. And again, it's complicated because it's not a linear, there's nothing linear about any of it, right? And there's so many different layers. Some people come in to have this incarnation and to experience a little bit of, the resurrection of this template, a little bit of the resurrection of this template, so again, it's so hard to generalize, but let's just say that through ascension, through this process of enlightenment and ascension, one desires to resurrect the highest expression of their unique embodiment of their monadic template or their oversoul template. This requires one to have some level of desire and participation in desiring to let go of that which no longer serves them, right? And to bring back online and into embodiment whatever is unique to them as their highest expression of their blueprint. And there's so many different tools and ways in which we can ignite this. And again, that's also unique to each individual. Some people respond greatly to breath, to different practices of sacred breath, of meditation, others to light, both some to breath and light. There's so many different ways in which we could, some rely and connect with different plant consciousness and systems of plant consciousness to open pathways and gateways within. Others, lean more heavily towards systems of movement and different technologies, that are in the format of movement, or a combination of all these things. So the pathways to resurrecting this within are many. And, part of it is to have fun and to explore it and get playful with it. But then when we get back into specifically talking about the Krystos template, what can be said of this is within the monadic framework, within this, which holds some general technology templates as a result of being an earth incarnate, right? So there are things very specific and unique to each one of us, but then there's also some generalized templates that come to interface the human experience specifically. The Krystos template has many layers and bandwidths of technology to it, of original codes of light and sound. And we could best connect to that as being very aligned with the unified field of consciousness, with the highest frequencies of immaculate divine law and order, the highest frequencies of pure source consciousness. And we reference them linearly oftentimes, and these actually do extend, of course, beyond dimensionalization and back to the full connection to pure prime source creator of love, compassion, peace, humility, joy, sovereignty, freedom, and, right? And so when we look at the Krystos template in order to describe it in a way that is sort of generalized and in the greatest place of digestibility, would be to say that it's this massive architecture, this divine architecture of light and sound codes that are pristine and immaculate in nature, and that hold, these communication systems of light and sound that connect us to the highest expressions of source, right? Of this unified field of consciousness. And this Krystos template was a part of the original human experience. When the original seeding of humanity took place, this Krystos template was very much intact and a part of the technology and the operating system. It's not separate of the original angelic template. It's not separate of the original human template. They all kind of work together as a system and architecture of light and sound, and therefore a highly advanced technology. But there are some distinctions between the layers of our monadic framework. And so, and we can get a little bit more into that, but I feel like I've been talking.
No,
it's so massive. And I feel like every time that this comes into conversation, there's so much information and wisdom coming in from all different directions. And then not only that, because, everything exists simultaneously, and those that will choose to participate in, and connecting to this conversation, to this transmission, this co-creation, are all coming from unique walks of life and different expressions of existence here. And it's almost like, there's this input coming in from their guides and their teams. And, it's like, wow, okay, how do we organize this into a system of like digestible and fluid conversation?
Yeah. No, I think that's beautiful. No matter however you're feeling the flow of bringing it in, feel free to talk the entire time if that happens to be the case, because I think this topic is so it's so dear to my heart that I'm in the flow of however it presents itself. So we've talked about before the archetypes. So is this template comprised of these archetypes? And in order to fully embody this Krystos template, would one need to embody all of the archetypes, or is it possible to embody a few of them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I as we had chatted previously in this past, I think it was like March of 2022, I was sitting in a meditation and connecting and asking, okay, what's the next level and layer of my service to all here? And as I was feeling into it, this tremendous amount of golden white light was coming through, and which immediately, there's so many layers and levels of pristine light that come through, an expression of what I am familiar with of Krystos consciousness, of Kryst consciousness. And yet, there's this palpable sort of expression that often comes through in this white gold light. So as I was coming through, I was seeing within, and and just in the expression of that consciousness, right? I mean, I know you're familiar with it. Like, there's just such a huge expansion into just pure love and bliss. And so I was sitting with it, and I started to receive some pretty specific downloads. And I was shown and told that a system of, or the 33 Krystos archetypes are coming back into greater awareness, into the greater scope of awareness for humanity. And that these 33 archetypes hold the light and sound architecture and technology for that is very significant to the Krystos template. So I almost feel as though, and I'm in the infantile stages of receiving greater and greater bandwidths of this consciousness and this technology and all the different layers to it. But it feels like, to answer your question, if one sets out in their blueprint to have the full expression of that which can be accessed here within the, the physical construct, etc., during this time of ascension, of those 33 archetypes, which when they show up in visual format, if you will, is this massive diamond geometry. And again, I feel like it has some very specific sort of general qualities to how it presents itself visually, like the architecture of it. But then, of course, it would never meet, it would meet each individuation uniquely within their own framework of their own unique sound and light signature, right? Their own unique snowflake, if you will. So what I'm receiving in this now moment, and as we know, I surrender every day to being open to receiving more and more and more. In other words, I surrender into knowing nothing, essentially, right? Because I feel like when we surrender into that 0 point, when we surrender into that connection to the potential, the infinite potential of infinite truths and infinite layers of consciousness, then we allow ourselves to flow in that, and we don't constrict ourselves into one particular thought or belief or infrastructure, etc. So I try to remain as in the flow of and presence of the 0 point and the infinite possibilities, because everything is constantly evolving in its consciousness bandwidth, right? Even the Krystos archetypes and architecture is, it's a living portal of source consciousness, right? So in each and every now moment, everything that's interfacing it and was in the system of creating it is expanding that as well. So new things are constantly showing up, but for us to be able to have a kind of a landing point in it, and a place and a launching point, maybe would be a better way to describe it, is to bring it in this now moment to the best of my abilities. So one thing that dropped in today, actually, as I was connecting to it, is in the fullest expression or embodiment of it within this, within this now moment of human existence, would be very synergistic or very parallel to what many have referred to as the embodiment of the diamond rainbow body, of, sort of that system of such pure embodiment of pure source consciousness, which in previous times, historical accounts, those who have reached that level of embodiment of self-realization have essentially left their physical bodies have, disintegrated, or actually in certain instances been known to like shrink, right? So in other words, the physical body was not able to hold and allow for the maintaining of physical existence as a human being, while maintaining, and holding the consciousness bandwidth of the diamond rainbow body. What I'm sensing and seeing in my understanding of it is that when we reach whatever level, and there's probably some sort of critical mass of embodiment of these 33 Krystos archetypes, that is very much, an expression of this embodiment of the diamond rainbow body. Yet, what's different and unique, and I hesitate to say for all, because there may be some people that choose to come in and experience it as it has been, historically accounted for before, where they leave their physical body. My understanding of it, and this, and why we hear it being called ascension, is because this time around, in the resurrection and embodiment of this, infrastructure of I am presence, right, of this Krystos 33 archetypes, is to transition our carbon-based DNA, our physical temples, into our crystalline diamond DNA, to be able to house and maintain that level of enlightenment or ascension while still remaining in a physical format. I don't even know if I answered your question.
You did. and I love it too, because you were literally, one thing that just came through is like, is there a difference from how it was done before to now, being able to perhaps be able to stay in the body as we, embody, if one chooses to embody their crystalline or the diamond crystal rainbow body. And then you answer that when you're saying that right now we're in the transition of switching from carbon-based DNA to the crystalline-based DNA, and perhaps that is the missing key in the past, where you would have left the body, versus now we'll be able to stay in it.
And I think one of the things, as you're talking, like I hear someone in the ethers saying, well, why is that, right? Why is that? Well, again, this is a collective ascension right now. We're in a place where it's not just a few people that are being invited into this invitation of full enlightenment, full ascension. And that's not even to say, and we know this, like everybody some people have come in to incarnate right now to remain in a complete sleep state. And that's beautiful and profound, because that's unique to their own, journey and their own experience here. So it's not to say that in this collective ascension, that everybody's blueprint is to, and desire, and deepest, cellular imprinted desire is to reach a place of conscious evolution, right? And enlightenment. It's just not so. In the progression of this collective ascension, those who have chosen to sort of remain in these slower moving frequencies, these lower dimensional ranges of consciousness, will ultimately get to a place, a crossroads, whereby it's not sustainable anymore to remain in physical incarnation, within the sort of the human collective bandwidth of or the greatest sort of focal point of human consciousness in this system of ascension, if you will. It's complicated, as we know, because there's so many timelines running simultaneously, right? We're existing in so many timelines simultaneously right now. So, but in an effort to kind of bridge the gap of what is so programmed and known in a linear, all of us in varying stages of accepting the dissolve of linear sort of mind matrices, etc. We'll kind of leave it at that. Mm-hmm. But circling back to why the opportunity now to be able to embody this rainbow body, this piece, this Krystos template in and keep, and stay embodied and not drop the physical body and move on, right? Type of situation is because of that collective invitation. It's because the earth herself is in a place of massive rebirth, right? All the layers and levels of consciousness within and upon Gaia, which is expanding far beyond the humans, right? The human race and human consciousness. That allows for planetary alignments, that allows for stargates and portals, and all these systems of greater influx of the energies that are supporting, the codexes, the nodes. We hear of all these different terminologies, all these different systems of light, of wisdom, of technology are coming in to support this transition during this phase. Whereas in other times where there were a few individuals here and there ascending and, embodying their rainbow diamond body, those other things weren't in alignment, whereby it facilitated the ability for them to perhaps transition the carbon to crystalline and stay in physical form.
Mm. When one embodies their rainbow diamond body, I know everyone's different, but I'm just curious to know what your understanding of this is in this now moment. What is its correlation with how many DNA strands are activated? And perhaps we hear about the 7 main chakras. Is there also an up-leveling of how many chakras are activated or turned on?
Yeah, I feel like you just asked 1,000 questions.
I know.
No apologies. I'm just like, all this information is dropping in at once. So, what can be said of this is that, again, it will meet each person uniquely, right? When someone, reaches this level of ascension, when one reaches this level of embodiment of, their diamond rainbow body, AKA, their Krystos template, which again, it's not solely, expressed as the Krystos template, but that expression of diamond rainbow body, everything works together and more and more as a unified field of consciousness, of one harmonious system of source technology. The more and more we embody, the more and more we embody our self-realization, the more and more we embody our monadic template, right? Which is, again, how I see it, is an expression of the original human template, the original angelic template, this Krystos template, within all of that is the diamond rainbow body, which is very much most expressed through my lens of perception as this 33 archetypes of light and sound, this divine architecture, yet it works synergistically and is totally interwoven with all the layers and levels of our monadic framework, right? So again, the more we come out of holding and hosting the imprint of separation through different belief systems and imprints of, the emotional, mental, physical, and spirit body, and we let go of those densities and those entanglements into this, separation matrix season, which is, known as the third density. And the more we're coming into and allowing ourselves the space to embody, to activate, to integrate, this crystalline DNA, this higher frequencies, our original architecture, right? So to kind of come back full circle to the question of like, how many strands of crystalline DNA will one house upon the full return and embodiment of their diamond rainbow body, their Krystos architecture, their monadic framework? That's unique to the individuation as well. At minimum, my understanding at this point, at minimum, it will be a 12-strand crystalline DNA. Although many that have incarnated here already come in with that pretty much intact, and intact, and yet not necessarily operating as the main frame because of all the different levels of assignments they've, chosen to experience prior to, awakening, so to speak, right? Prior to getting to that point on their journey where they're like, okay, it's time to now peel away the layers of the onion versus accumulating them to, receive greater depths of experience of all the systems of polarity that exist here, right? So at minimum, my understanding at this point, at minimum, is a 12-strand DNA. However, there's such a huge range of original angelic beings, indigo beings, crystal beings, diamond rainbow beings, and beings that are all of the above, and and systems, that are not in those greater sort of categories of generalization. All of these beings are here right now. You could, I feel like as humanity reaches certain levels and critical mass of awakening, they transcend layers of what is seen, and viewed right now within the timeline potentials as as the collective blueprint even, and as their individual blueprint. So, it would be limiting to say it's this many strands, there's that many strands, because I feel like in the time of the last 11 years that I've been on this journey of my, ascension trajectory or awakening, that answer has changed so much. It could be 64. It could be, 120. It could be, and, right? Yeah. And even I pause for a moment because I'm like,
there's so much.
Yeah, because even within that, there are different levels of sort of grounding and rooting of those strands of crystalline technology, right? Some will be more palpably grounded and rooted and sort of housed here in a more quote unquote physical expression. And then there are these layers and tiers to our energetic access, which may be that, here and now, what we would consider, in present moment, maybe we have 24 strands of crystalline DNA, very much online, very much palpable to this physical expression, yet we're accessing, bandwidths of crystalline technology, of dimensional range so far beyond that in the outer scope of our energetic fields and access. So that's like one of those things that can just go on and on and on and on, right? Yeah.
I'm sure it's the same for the chakras then as well. Like,
oh, right. So yeah, so the chakras. So again, the chakra system is so significant, and it's been a landing point and sort of like been brought forth as, as a very simplified system to begin to slowly and gradually expand the human consciousness beyond the delusion or illusion that we're this physical body, and this is our capacity and our potential and right. That system of 7 main chakras came in to sort of say, okay, well, let's just keep this here and ground this awareness and, and let it sort of unfold in different ways so that, it will be that original sort of seed planted and will grow and gain and generalized acceptance over time. But really what it is, what shows up is a placeholder, right? It's like a placeholder and like a way for humanity to just start to kind of peek into and get comfortable with the familiarity and the truth that we're a multiversal technology and system, that's so far beyond the limit, the linear thinking mind and egoic mind's construct of an understanding, right? So yes, there's absolutely these 7 chakras in place, but we have hundreds, maybe thousands, possibly, or perhaps there's not even a quantifiable expression of the amount of chakras and meridians and systems that are accessible to us, right? And so but to kind of keep it simplified and generalized to some degree, as we're ascending, as we're bringing in this monadic framework, as we're igniting this crystalline technology, right? As we're housing greater and greater bandwidths of our Krystos archetypes, our Krystos rainbow body, however all these words are ways to describe the different layers and levels of this monadic system, right? Our oversoul. As we're bringing that in, everything starts to shift, right? Because now we're shifting into greater and greater embodiment of oneness, of pure source embodiment, right? Pure omniscience, all known, self-realization, right? Coming into the system where everything kind of melds. So it's not to say if you take sort of that microscope, right, and go into the layers of the quantum fabric of the intricacies of the system, that you wouldn't see the individual parts playing out as the whole. But what I best understand of it is it becomes like this, almost this one system of operation, right? Like all the chakras are there, they're playing their parts like a giant puzzle, but it almost represents itself again as like this diamond system, but also with and around it a sphere. So it's sort of this diamond spherical system, for a lack of a better way to, hard to put words on it. And so, yeah, that would be the best way I feel I can describe it right now.
Well, I really love how it's being shown, or being revealed to you as that the 33 archetypes are a combination of light and sound codes. I'm not sure how you worded it, but essentially one aspect of what it looks like to me to embody our fullest potential is to have a balance of the divine masculine and feminine energies. And I look at light representing the masculine energies and sound, the feminine energies. And so when one embodies the 33 archetypes and has the Krystos template embodied, and how much more takes place during that, I totally envision just a complete harmonizing of the energy fields, of the DNA strands, and there's so much more to describe. I can see why there's it feels like so much has come in, because it really feels like it touches everything. It truly is a unifying experience. And at the center of the 33 archetypes and the Krystos template, I feel like what really, at least for me on my journey, the heart has been such a huge focal point. And I feel like when I think about the embodying Kryst consciousness or the Krystos archetype, the heart is there. So can you explain from your understanding why the heart is so important during the shift in consciousness, and why is it that the Krystos archetype, for me and from my understanding, is it's all about bringing the awareness to the heart center and not the mind. Not to say the mind is bad, but
right. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So, in the massiveness, which, as we're even bringing in the layers and layers and layers of it, there's like another expression of energy even coming in through this co-creation that we're having that feels even more, expansive than what has previously been brought forth in recognition. And it's like, whoa, like, and even before you're bringing that in, it's I love the full connection field that's taking place right now, the oneness that's even taking place within the co-creation. Because as you're speaking and bringing that in, I was already kind of being directed into, that high heart, right? We hear about the high heart sort of, sometimes in certain philosophies and expressions referred to as the assemblage point. And ultimately how I'm shown the high heart is it's the inception point of our soul's inception point, right? Coming into this human infrastructure, this human experience, right? This matrices upon matrices and matrices of creation codex that ultimately leads to us dropping in and beginning to form as a physical being here. And that all starts within the epicenter, within the heart, within the physical heart. Yet within the physical heart is what is known as the high heart, the atom seed, the portal that connects us to our eternal selves as source. And so it helps to bring in, right? It helps to bring in sort of a central point of all systems of communication, of all systems of ascension that are taking place. So in the massiveness of what is being brought forth and all that is being shared right now, it could almost feel like, a sense of overwhelm, right? Because there's so much, cosmic, unconditional love and all the different layers and levels of all the frequencies, of light and sound architecture that are expressed in the 33 archetypes. So to have, all of creation comes into to a system, right? Into some way of organizing itself so that it can hold the integrity of its original blueprint, of the intention, right? Knowing that within that architecture, there's, and the flow of all creation and the flow of all consciousness, there's meant to be, the ability for that architecture to continue to evolve and shift and change and expand, yet while holding, the initial integrity of the intention of its creation, if that makes sense. And so to be able to do that, to be able to hold that original seed of intention and that original and pure connection to and as identifying with self as source, right? As a unique individuation of source is, one of the greatest significances of the heart, of the high heart. It acts as the central point, the 0 point connection to all layers and levels of exploration within that original seeding of creation, that original system, right? So everything will come into and interfacing with the high heart technology. Any contraction, any expansion, it all sort of grounds and roots and connects and participates within that sort of that mainframe, that central hub of our eternal existence, of our soul connection point, our high self connection point, our oversoul connection point of the high heart. So in the Krystos template, there are layers and levels of potential of resurrecting what is known as sort of, and of course words are so limiting, but the purest expression of source, unconditional cosmic diamond love, which is called the Krystos Immaculate Heart Complex, which is this massive light and sound architecture and infrastructure and expression of the heart, of the high heart. And so with the embodiment of the 33 archetypes, again, everybody interfacing it, expressing it, activating it within their own unique blueprint. Some will come into the full expression and resurrection of this immaculate heart complex while in embodiment here. Others will come in to receive specific parts of it and, and expressions of it. And there's no good or bad or right or wrong. It's all profound, right? Those types of judgments and those types of sort of the viewing of a particular blueprint versus another one and doing some level of comparison as to the value of it, that's all within the system of separation, right? And it's a dishonoring of sovereignty, freedom, and oneness. So everybody will uniquely interface the invitation of this expression of the high heart, of the immaculate Krystos heart complex. And it's referred to by different people and intuited, in different ways, but this is how it comes through to express.
Mm-hmm. I love that. You put a definition to how I was feeling, like something so grand as the 33 archetypes, the Krystos template, I feel like could only be housed in the heart. To have like the thinking mind to try to keep all the information in, it feels like it wouldn't be able to do it.
Right. I love that you bring that in, because we often, as we begin to awaken and as we're on the spiritual path and so many different ancient philosophies and timeless philosophies, like whether it's, through Hindu, the Hindu religion or Buddhism philosophy, or, whatever, the yoganic philosophy, etc., spiritual philosophies and systems of consciousness, that are, even before those, right? There's so many different ways in which we can participate and, and come back into this place of connection and greater wholeness. And there would never be one way, right? There would never be one pathway or one system that leads us to our own unique sort of embodiment and expression of the self-realization. And interestingly, I totally sort of got dissolved into that. And where were we going with that? I'm like, ooh.
No, I was sharing that something as grand as the 33 archetypes in the Krystos template. I was just feeling that it could only be housed in the heart. When if you were to try to
yes, okay, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
So what with that, with all these different systems, we almost come into this interesting relationship with the mind, right? It's almost like a warring frequency with the mind, right? Because we start to realize, like, oh my gosh, like all these, thoughts and this, the mind chatter and all that, and then we start to think like, oh, it's my core essence against that, right? It's this warring frequency. And I feel like everybody goes through some layer of that because it's just part of this initial, like, coming out of being like in the sleep state and realizing like, okay, wait a second, there's something that is of my eternal essence that is not this thinking mind, this mind chatter, right? And it's sort of like for us to further calibrate and begin to connect and identify more with ourselves as our core essence, is to almost like, repel that which is not, right, which is this mind chatter, this static. And yet then we get into these deeper levels and layers of embodiment where we start to realize, like, okay, if I have any level of resistance to the thinking mind and to this mind chatter and this incessant streaming of thoughts and beliefs that are in polarity to the core essence that I now identify myself as or with, right? Then we're simply creating more interface with it because resistance creates more of the same, right? So then we start to realize and we start to embody more of our adult operating spiritual selves, right? And we're like, okay, let me soften into this. This is not my core essence. This is, the static of many layers of the collective unconscious of humanity. And, and we can go into, we're not going to go into the wormholes of what else the mind chatter is, but, we know what that is, right? And then we soften into it to realize, okay, this is part of this current moment's, this human experience, this mind chatter, right? And I'm going to, the more and more I realize that this is not me, that this is me, right? This high heart, the atom seed, the unique expression of source that I am, right? That I am source. I'm a unique, eternal expression of source that is embodied in this human suit. And through my layers and levels of incarnation here, I've accumulated, through my sleep state, all these different systems of beliefs. I've appropriated and focused my consciousness onto these, this rain of mind chatter, right? And where I've focused upon or chosen to or not seen or understood that this was not me, this was not my, my thoughts, my beliefs. It's like, okay, let's start to let that go. All right. We see the divine perfection in it. We had that whole experience so we could understand the greater depths of polarity of that which we've always been, pure light, pure source consciousness, right? So we start to realize the more we trust in ourselves as source, the more as we choose to identify with ourselves as source, should we choose, the more and more that mind chatter starts to dissolve into the background. And the more we come out of any felt sense of resistance to it, because the resistance transitions into awareness that I am the witnessing observer of this human experience. And this is over here, and I'm observing it. And I have a sense of neutrality because I'm in the present moment. I'm connecting in and as source in the 0 point. And I'm witnessing that this is just some stuff that's still playing out in my unique hologram here. And that the more I just utilize, my presence or connect and to the present moment and choose to bring in the resources to flush that out, right? Light, whatever it is, breath, then the more and more and more still everything becomes, the more and more quiet, the more we can really realize in any moment, like, oh, that's interesting that stream of consciousness popped in, and we just do whatever tools that we most resonate with to sort of wash it out of the field and come back here. And that thinking, that mind chatter becomes almost non-existent, as I know you well know. So I feel like all that wanted to come in to say, it's not that the heart, it is that the heart is the central hub and the eternal epicenter of pure connection to the everything and the no thing and ourselves as, right? It is the epicenter of wisdom. When we hear like, go within, all that you desire to connect with exists within. True. And that's the portal, like we can think of it as that's the access point, right? Mm-hmm. Is that heart complex. That's our pure access point to pure connection with source and ourselves as source. And yet, as we go through all these layers, should we choose and desire to, obviously, mm-hmm. of the dissolving of that, we begin to see that of this beautiful, magnificent, exquisite technology of the brain, we're only been utilizing about less than 1% to 1% of its potential. And that 1% of potential that is currently being referred to as the brain, as the mind, right? In most linear systems of awareness here, has been hijacked and programmed to stay within a very finite system of potential, through societal belief programs and, and education and all of it, right? Which some people think, how could that be? There's infinite things here to, books and this and that. Yeah. I mean, that's how limited we've become, right? So we're not meant to poo-poo the brain and the mind. What we're meant to do is realize that, what we have associated or identified with and has become our source, right? This very small percentage of our potential to be activated and expanded within the construct of the technology of the brain is, it is letting go, releasing our attachment to it, dropping back more into the center point. So from the center point, we can access, again, now we're kind of coming full circle to accessing the frequencies of light and sound that can only really be accessed and remembered and intended and focused on to, I would say accessed through us dropping in and communicating through our high heart. It won't ever be able to be potentialized through that finite system and distorted complex of the 1% of the thinking mind that's actually being participated in right now. It can't hold that. It doesn't have the potential. But the other 99% of the unpotentialized technology that this brilliant human brain holds the potential for can be activated through our attention and intention of activating it. That takes place through our presence and our connection as source through the heart. So that mind-heart connection that we hear about, that's sort of another way of expressing that.
This is so, the co-creation that's speaking about, I just literally had come in like, oh, you're giving, detail to what it is, what we refer to as the heart mind coherence. So I'm glad that you brought it in a way that, at least for me, it helped me to understand that. And it's so interesting too, because when one is choosing to go down the rabbit hole, or not to even say it that way, of meditation, there's this topic of, do you observe your thoughts as clouds? Like, how do you stop the chatter? And one way for me that has worked, that you just shared, is like bringing the attention and having your home base become the heart. And the more that is the focal point, the less the chatter is really to the forefront.
Love that. Love that, because what that invokes is a beautiful practice, which I think is essentially saying the same thing. But if people like to have like a practical way of like, okay, break it down for me, you know what I mean? Like, tell me what you're talking about here. Is command your thoughts into your heart. So whether it's in the meditation or whether you're just driving and you're like, I can't take another minute of this incessant chatter, breathe and command. It's that simple. I command my thoughts into my heart here and now. I command my thoughts into my heart here and now. And I'm doing this because, that's how I envision it, right? Yeah. When there are those moments which become rarer and rarer, the more we find our greatest tools and practices, right? For me, it's very much been the breath and meditation. Breath plus light plus intention equals profound cellular and soul alchemy. And that has been my experience. So I'll take a breath, and the breath for me, it's like, at this point, it's like, where am I right now? Am I here in the high heart? Because if not, get there. That's like when I sort of like, right? That's my internal compass. That's the epicenter of my existence, right? So drop in there, take a couple of breaths, and just, and in a loving, self-loving, compassionate, non-confrontational, neutral way, right? Non-combative, not me against you. It's let's get clear, right? Let's get clear here. What is truly, present? What is playing out here that is truly mine to identify with or to own, right? And when we command those thoughts into our heart space, the heart is this eternal wisdom center. It will make it very clear for us, okay, all these things will melt away and no longer be present. So we know that was just some chaotic minutia running in the background. And then anything that's meant to be further explored or owned as a level of our unconscious or conscious participation with will sit there in a nice and beautiful supported way for us to further unfold through a neutral curiosity, right? So it's like, if it's something playing out, in other words, that's wanting to come back home, back into integrate, into creating a greater sense of wholeness, it won't instantaneously dissolve with the command of I command my thoughts into my heart space, right? But it will feel so much differently. It will feel differently because it won't feel like anxiety, and it's not going to feel like fear. Those things may be on the periphery of awareness because they're ready to be let go of. But the clarity of what wants to be known and explored, or, the wisdom that wants to come back home, comes into a much softer space of exploration when we participate in that way, I feel like.
I love that you just shared that golden nugget. Arguably, this whole conversation is a golden nugget, but for me, I really love it when a practical way of going about doing whatever someone's talking about is shared. That's a golden nugget for me, because that's a way of going from intellectually understanding, oh yeah, there's 33 archetypes, oh yeah, I can embody it, to now you're embodying. And I feel like that is one practical way of being able to do that.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about this before, and we love to put, a greater sort of exploration around, what's the difference between, because we know and hear of and interact with many, many beings that are a wellspring, an ascension glossary, a spiritual, encyclopedia of intellectually understood concepts and dimensional ranges and frequencies. And yet they're frustrated, right? They're frustrated because they feel like, the thinking mind, the egoic mind, is in this place of precluding them from this place of enlightenment, this place of greater expansion and expression of themselves as source. And to your sharing there, the key to that, or at least, what I perceive as the key and what is shown to me as the key, is taking it from the intellectually understood place of this, this sort of encyclopedia, and bringing it into practical, consistent daily practice so that it becomes an embodiment, right? So it's like the walk versus talk the talk, which of course we know is somewhat limited in its expression, but we get it, right? It's a way of seeing like, okay, that's where knowledge becomes wisdom, right? That's where, an intention becomes actualized. It's like when we take it and we breathe with it, and we sit with it, and we apply it. We apply it with whatever the tools are, small or large. And I think that's such a huge gift of awareness for all of us, right? Because we've been taught, and even in our education system, everything's about memorization. Just memorize it, and then you're going to get an A. But it's not about memorizing. It's about applying that knowledge so it becomes wisdom, so it becomes embodiment, so it becomes an experience, so it becomes actualized to its fullest potential. And so it's not a wonder as to why we're walking around with, all of this information, but, yet we're still experiencing all these levels of anxiety and suffering and so forth. It's in the application. Right? It's in the embodiment. It's in the showing up consistently every day. The practice doesn't have to remain the same every day. We can switch it up. There's so many different ways, but yeah.
I love that you're bringing this in. Like it brought a whole new level of excitement and awareness to, and I don't normally like share these things, but like this course that I'm creating, I'm definitely implementing ways in which one can embody the archetypes that I'm choosing to present in this particular course at that time. So thank you so much for, it's a co-creation of, bringing that level of awareness. And it's so interesting how that happens, where someone can say something that you might already know, but in a different way. And it just brings a whole new lens to what you were viewing it from, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. As you're talking about that, I'm seeing like Gaia like opening up, and like, and this giant, hand, almost looking like the hand of Source, right? Placing a seed, and that seed, to reach its full potential and its full expression, receives the waters, and the elixir of nourishment from many different directions and many different elements and consciousness, right? And I feel like that could be said of us, as well. It's, we receive things in different ways from different beings, to meet us where we are in each now moment. And maybe the seed only wanted to, start to grow a little bit, but now it's ready to grow some more in that way. And so, something that we've heard many different times, comes through on, a different expression of Source, a unique individuation, and that potentializes it. Yeah.
I love that. That's such a beautiful, I don't want to call it an analogy, but for lack of better words, I'll just say that. Wow. Okay, so we have talked quite a bit about these 33 archetypes, but we haven't really, described what each archetype is. I know, at least from my understanding, some of it is not in my field of awareness right now. It's going to be an ongoing process. And to that sharing, I feel like it will come to our awareness when the right time is. But I would love for you to share, from your understanding, the archetypes that you know of.
Yeah.
Feel guided to share.
Sure. Well, what I feel like more guided to share, because they're continuing to come forth, as I suppose, meeting us where we are, right? So not all 33 of them have been revealed in their entirety, as far as what's meant to come through this vehicle, at this time. But some of the ones that are absolutely present are, immaculate unconditional love, compassion, transparency, neutrality, the mirror, sovereignty, freedom, joy, so humility. So there are many. And so people, again, they hear the word archetype and they're like, I don't understand, because there's so much variation, we'll say, for a more neutral terminology, of what languaging has limited us, in our scope of recognizing certain things as, in a fuller capacity or fuller potential. And whereas we associate an archetype now to be, sort of like this physical, or somewhere, more of like within like a hierarchy, or, a system of separation and limitation, and sort of very much a construct with limited mobility to its expression. These archetypes are actually massive systems of light and sound that have an infinite scope of expression and expansion to be potentialized and accessed. It's a multiversal system of light and sound technology and communication that's going to, hold, sort of really an infinite spectrum and bandwidth of potential. And so it really just meets us where we are in each now moment as to what we're housing as our mainframe of conscious access, right? And they're shown or referred to as archetypes because they hold a very specific layer of divine architecture within this Krystos template that ultimately lead to a greater embodiment of wholeness and expression of oneness and I am presence. So they are shown in a way, sort of visually, as they come into full expression and embodiment within the Krystos template, as in sort of a infrastructure or architecture, right, or a system, and yet there is nothing finite about it. It's malleable. I guess that would be the best way to describe it.
Yeah. I feel like each of those topics, you could have so many, like a whole day worth of conversation on each of the topics, because each of them have been such a profound catalyst for me on my journey, and I know they have been for you on your journey. And I really love some of the things you brought in about the high heart, and how this is like your internal compass. This is the connection point of our core essence, because for so long I've always equated that. I've used my heart as a compass to navigate through the unknown. And I think it's really important that I'm grateful that you brought in what you did, because it shows that even if you're not choosing to go down the experience of embodying, this Krystos template, I think whatever your path is, if you do come into your heart space as your home base, it not only is a way to navigate the unknown as your internal compass, but it's a way of really helping to discern between things that are of the heart, information, people, experiences, and so forth, or things that are coming from the egoic mind. And at least for my understanding, as my experience I'm choosing to experience is, I wanted to embody my fullest potential. I wanted to expand my consciousness and raise my frequencies, and all doing that to be of the best service to all seen and unseen. And so just having that discernment along the journey of navigating that, it's really crucial.
Yeah, I love that. And as you're speaking and I'm receiving what you're bringing through, another level of just awareness is that I was even questioning sort of source as you're speaking and sharing what comes through in words may seem or feel complicated, right? It may seem like wow, but really what it is at this point in time to unwind and disentangle and sort of rewire and distract, these chaotic nodes and distortion frequencies within the thinking mind is to bring down something that the thinking mind will participate in to some degree, right? Because they're words, and the words, that's a language that the thinking mind can and so it's coming through, and it's sort of clearing out, and and giving us the ability to let go of trying to analyze it or even conceptualize it through the thinking mind, right? It's like the words that come through in the systems and the ways in which they're expressed right now. I feel like what I was seeing is like it's a system of greater invitation just to surrender to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Just surrender into the heart space and feel it. Don't try to analyze it or necessarily understand or understand all that's being shown or said through words right now. Just surrender into the heart space and allow yourself to feel it. Let that heart interpret what it means for you in this now moment, right? Breathe and connect and feel, because ultimately, as the thinking mind, the egoic mind, and the identification with the personality, right, with the limited scope of the personality complex and the egoic mind complex that we have so beautifully, identified, most likely identified with most of our life. The more we honor that for all the different roles and characters that it's assisted us in applying and playing out, honor it and integrate it, but come into that greater identification with ourselves as the everything, the nothing, right? As pure source embodied. Then we don't even need the words anymore, because the mind has dissolved into its place of integration, into a place of wholeness. The greater capacity of that, unpotentialized technology that exists within our brain has come into this one system of cohesive interfacing of the heart. And we no longer are limited to even words coming through. It's just a state of being, right? It's just a state of complete identification and being that heart, that that eternal wisdom center source, right? Yeah.
And when you embody that heart space, your actions, your thoughts, your emotions can help to be in resonance with that frequency, that high vibrational, unconditional love, non-judgmental to yourself, to others, and you can just see how that's just a snowball effect of really simply, if you want to talk about someone embodying a service that they can be for the collective, embodying yourself as your true template of, the Krystos, and even if not, embodying the heart, and just by that, it ripples out to the collective with you being yourself and sharing that high frequency.
Yeah, exactly.
I would love wrapping this kind of conversation up. If you feel called to participate or conduct a little transmission, first of all, how do you feel about? Do you feel like you have enough energy for that?
Absolutely, sure.
There's no time frame, but however you feel guided to, and perhaps if there's a way of setting the intention pertaining to, for those who are listening, or for those who listen to this, helping them drop into their heart, or perhaps helping them light the fire within of who are choosing to or desiring to experience the embodying the Krystos template, anything that's aligned with that topic.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So guiding everyone to find a comfortable space, whether that's seated or lying down, connecting to the heart. And if that feels unknown in this moment, just placing your hand upon where best know your physical heart to be, and allowing yourself to settle in and surrender into the knowing, trusting. When I, as a unique individuation of source, command my intention and attention to connecting with my heart, my high heart, that's exactly what takes place. And letting go of any systems of resistance, any interfacing of the thinking mind, any belief systems or thought programs that are leading you to believe that there's any wrong way of participating in this experience here and now. Just breathing and surrendering. Taking some nice, deep, nourishing inhales through the nose, filling the lower belly, filling the rib cage, filling the chest, pausing for a moment at the top of the inhale, and then letting it out through your mouth, the exhale. Emptying all of the air out. When you feel the exhale is complete, beginning a new inhale once again. Inhaling in that divine, immaculate, unconditional, Krystos, cosmic love. Coming in through your crown chakra, coming in through your central channel, down through your spine, through the front and the back of all of your chakras, feeling that immaculate light flowing in, creating a greater felt sense of harmonization, balance, and oneness. Letting go of the thinking mind, letting go of the thoughts, and allowing yourself to surrender into the heart space, into a gentle and loving embrace. Letting go of any and all fear, unworthiness, not enough. Letting go of any and all systems of judgment of self and others. Letting go, feeling the freedom, the peace, and the instantaneous ability to receive this love and to share this love when we let go and surrender and trust. Feeling, breathing, allowing now. Simply allowing yourselves and your cells to receive the omnipotent flow of pure rainbow Krystos light that flows down and through and all around you, bathing you, feeling your cells being bathed in this alchemical, infinite spectrum of pure Krystos rainbow light. Colors of the rainbow perhaps never witnessed, experienced, felt before. And allowing yourself to let go of any expectations, any attachments as to how this moment is to be experienced right now. Just freeing, allowing, surrendering, receiving. Alosum begale osani ishni brandandaya. Uklala yesama sundrini. Undra plale yesani ni shundri naratra puri yesni yashundrin. Alaluli mi andrandro trale yesi shundri andrando. Undrala purieli ni musni andrena traos potreshi supia shandandari. Prasandrani miandrani atrai usatriya protraya. Undare miandra cristala usamia sundria satrante piesandri. Undratra prosum. Aprasandaria pisundrelus usatra usalalus miesuniandrame. Feeling this rainbow light flowing down as though you become one with this plasma liquid light flowing down. You've become one. You are this rainbow of pure Krystos consciousness, light, and love. feeling the invitation to love yourself and your cells like never before, letting go of any and all beliefs, any and all limitations, any and all systems of how you've previously witnessed and identified yourself as perhaps unworthy of receiving, becoming, being this radiant flow of immaculate diamond, cosmic, unconditional love. Feeling it expanding now, letting all layers and levels of your body relax into it. This liquid rainbow divinity, taking you out of any fear programs, any fight or flight, and allowing you to bathe, to flow in the radiance of this light as it moves down and through your feet, feeling it be growing these rainbow roots, connect you deep down into the central crystal earth star core of Mother Earth, Sophia Gaia, grounding and rooting your rainbow light, grounding and rooting, allowing for the potential of this Krystos archetype, of this Krystos architecture and template to resurrect, to express itself, to meet you where you are in this now moment, in a place of full embrace, glory, and trust. I trust in myself as source. I am. I trust in myself as source. I am. I trust in myself as source. I am. Lale poso niamba trae supiesho niandaya praia curies niamba osundri. Ala luli usundaya mabudre kraia susinini anutoroni adrani. Ala susapaya sundri niatra. Un cristala sumputura isha supia sandria niamba atlale yesini. Pushini asambapatoros niambra usin. Undra putatrini asandria saparias niasu au. Ulala le miandaina. Alea mamburiani ania trayatra, utriani aqua, uniandriani una. Undara praye. Undara praye. Undara praye. Undabraye andau. Sandrini. Feeling ourselves now coming back into the heart center, placing both of our hands upon our heart and allowing ourselves now to feel tremendous gratitude, perhaps feeling this rainbow light moving up and through and all around, down and through and all around, creating a toroidal field, an overflowing chalice of pure rainbow divinity, allowing us to feel a tremendous sense of peace, love, gratitude, and illumination. Gratitude for this moment together. Gratitude for this moment of greater awareness, understanding, embodiment of who you are and why you're here through the lens of immaculate Krystos light and love. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Taking a moment, allowing yourself to ground, feeling yourself grounding through your tailbone, through your heart lines, your root chakra, down and through your feet, grounding and connecting, coming into your physical body and allowing yourself to delight in all that is taking place. How do we do?
That was amazing. Thank you for being so malleable and agreeing to that on the spot request of doing a transmission.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to, yeah, thank you. I wanted to wrap this up and bring this full circle of anyone who experienced the frequencies that were coming from your heart and the wisdom that you are sharing, and then they got a taste of what it's like to receive a transmission from you. They can get kind of a full range of effect of kind of what it's like to experience. I'm trying to think of what to call them, portals that you hold. So with that being said, please share your website, and anything you have going on now.
Yeah, thank you. So my website is Brooklyn Rain, which is BROOKLINRAYNE.com, or seedofconsciousness.com. Both of those will get you to the same place. And there are all types of things that can be participated in through that. Private sessions together where we work one-on-one, really, where I communicate primarily with one's higher self and oversoul, but via whatever intention they bring forth into the session. And all different things can take place. Transmissions, whatever is sort of on the forefront of the intention for the individual. And then there are lots of recorded transmission series, some on, as mentioned, as part of the system of Krystos light and sound. And then there's a new course that's about to go live that can be accessed also, which is divine union through the journey of self-love. And of course, that is very much within the field of what was probably felt in the transmission today. And then there's a YouTube as well, with a lot of free sacred breath transmissions and different resources. Yeah.
Thank you so much for this co-creation. It was so beautiful.
Yes, thank you too. So grateful.
I look forward to having this conscious conversation again, as I'm sure there's so many ways we could have taken this conversation, and we are just literally scratching the surface with this beautiful and profound topic.
Yeah. Forward to it.